Safe Semantics, episode 222. It is August 15th, 2023. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. Early in the week podcast episode recording. I'm going to split it into two parts this time, just because I had the opportunity to record today. It's going to be short recording today. I'm going to keep it kind of brief. I don't have a whole lot to really catch up on necessarily, but I just wanted to record. I want to put something out there. So right now, just a brief catch up on the Women's World Cup. We are at the semifinals now. The Spanish team has made it to the finals. They beat Sweden this yesterday, I guess you could say, yesterday or last night or early this morning for us. And they've now proceeded to the finals. And then I think today, either today or tomorrow, it is going to be England versus Australia, and that's going to be a pretty big game. So will I be able to catch it? Probably not, just because of timing. I do, if it is possible, I would like to watch the final live. I think that would be pretty exciting. It's probably going to be at like midnight or like 1 a.m. or something, but I want to catch it. I think it will be pretty exciting. I watched, did I watch the Men's World Cup? I did. I watched the Men's World Cup, I think, live. Part of it. I wish I watched the entire thing live, but that was a pretty great game. So I'm hoping for, it'll be hard to expect to the same caliber, because that was like an all-time game, but I think there's some good teams remaining, so I think it would be really great to see Australia make it to the final. I mean, it would be crazy for them to win it all in the, as the host country. I think that would be pretty awesome to witness. I think the crowd would be crazy to witness. So, that's sort of my. I hope that they can make it for. I think that would just be an exciting kind of premise and setting for the final game of the cup. So that's sort of that's kind of a brief catch up on that regard. I no longer have any skin in the game. All of the countries that I was rooting for has long been, not long, but they've been out for a little bit now. So I don't really have a whole lot of skin in the game, but I think it'll be exciting to see Australia win it all. Just considering the setting and everything like that. So that's sort of where things are currently. I think by the time I record next time, it'll be over by then, so I'll provide an update potentially later this week or weekend. I started Ghost Trick this weekend, so right after I beat Persona. Not right after, but pretty, relatively soon after I beat Persona. I picked up Ghost Trick. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's like the perfect, like I said, that's kind of, it's really an in-between game for, taking a kind of a bit of a, small stint from one JRPG to the next, right? Instead of diving in, taking a small break with kind of Ghost Trick. And it's really great. It's perfect. It's right. It's exactly what I wanted. It is a completely linear storyline. You just kind of complete the objective to get to the next chapter of the story. It's very you could argue that it has a very visual novel-esque style of gameplay. A lot of the interaction is text-based. Dialogue, you're reading notes, that sort of thing. But I really enjoy it. It's really compelling. I'm excited to see where it goes next. It does feel, this is absolutely not taking any points away from my experience, but it definitely does feel like it was originally intended for the DS. I remember I said this before last time, but um, I remember it being advertised on Nintendo Power back when I was still subscribed to the magazine, and I also remember seeing a few ads here and there. I don't remember if I was interested in picking it up or not, but it seemed pretty interesting. I think I played the demo way back then. They released it on iPhone. That's what they did. They released it on iPhone. I don't know if I picked up the demo, but yeah, that was something that had happened. And I mean, I think that it works for kind of a mobile phone setting as well. You don't. It's not a super high. I don't think it requires a whole lot to run the game. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it so far. I really like kind of the click and point adventure aspect of it. I haven't really played a ton of games like this one, where you sort of, a lot of it is based around you exploring the confines of, I guess, the 2D space essentially, right? And trying to figure out puzzles, clicking certain objects to manipulate them in a certain manner so you could solve certain puzzles, that sort of thing. I mean, the puzzles aren't really all that complex. It's much more related to timing and doing the right thing at just the right moment. So I don't know. It's really, I think it's really nice, and I think it's cool. I'm excited to. I would be interested in seeing more games of this type. I don't know if I would really want to play a full-on visual novel, but maybe some visual novel elements. I think there still needs to be some level of interactivity between me and the game. I don't. Maybe I haven't really tried it where I've actually delved into a visual novel game where I'm reading the text and engaging with the characters and all that, but I just feel I think I would much more be interested in playing a game that has certain elements. Maybe the gameplay is sort of secondary to the story, but it adds kind of that element of you being the player. You're the one that's like solving the mystery. You're the one that's I guess changing the fates of people in the case of Ghost Trick. I think that would be a little more up my alley as opposed to maybe just reading along to a visual novel. But again, I haven't really dabbled with any of that, to the full extent. So I can't really say that. I can't really say if I would really fully enjoy it or not. I just don't know yet. I also mentioned this, before, but I believe 13 Sentinels, which is another game on my list that I really would like to play. I think that's probably going to be a little later down the line. But I heard it has some visual novel elements as well. So, but I heard that the story is like really great and super engaging. So I do want to pick that up. And I'm going to really try. I think it'll be a lot easier than other games that I've played where I go into it fully blind. It is a smaller game. I don't think it's as popular as past games that I've played. Zelda, Xenoblade, whatever. Where it's much more. I'm much more prone to being exposed to spoilery stuff. So I think it'll be, as long as I don't, I don't know, as long as I don't fucking go onto the YouTube search bar and look up 13 Sentinels like gameplay, that's going to spoil everything that my recommended is going to be fucked, So as long as I don't do that, as long as I just kind of keep off of things, keep off of Reddit, all of that, I think I'll be good to go. So I really want to go blind into that one. Speaking of going into blind, I picked up or rather Nier Automata, just arrived yesterday, I believe. I ordered it through Amazon. I wanted a physical copy of the game. And so, yeah, that's going to be the next one. This is the next big one that I'm going to be delving into. I have certain ideas of what to expect for that game. I know about the creator. I forgot his name. I just forgot his fucking name. It's not Yoshida. That's Yoshi P, right? I forgot his name. But he also created, or previous to Nier, he created the Drakengard series, I believe, and from my understanding, those games have some pretty crazy storylines and crazy concepts and whatnot. So I'm really excited to get into Automata. I've only heard good things about it. I do know about the whole, I guess there being kind of multiple storylines or multiple, you know, threads or whatever the fuck. I know about that because that's kind of a um, common idea that people sort of already, that's already kind of out there, you know what I mean? It's also a bit of an older game. It was like 2016 when it originally came out, 2017. So it's not that surprising that there's a lot of info out there already. So I'm going to try my best to really stay spoiler free on that experience because I think that's going to be really special. I'm really excited to play it. I've heard that the themes and the elements of the game are very dark and pretty heavy, which I like. I like in, you know, certain aspects, maybe not in all games or mediums, but I'm always interested in games tackling more difficult subjects, like, death and mortality and whatnot. I think that's one of the reasons why Xenoblade 3 resonated with me so much, is because of just kind of the exploration of these themes, and just how much the world and the characters really contributed to kind of, I guess, delving into more difficult topics. How it discussed certain things, even if it's like a minor thing, including, I don't know, culture and economics and that sort of thing. That, they briefly touch upon those ideas and as well, and sort of tackle that, talking about things like vulnerability and how you present yourself to other people and being true to yourself. I mean, these are concepts that are pretty common in JRPGs in general, but I think the way that they sort of melded that with the more complex and more difficult topics like death and just sort of dealing with mortality and just kind of the cycle of abuse and that sort of thing. I think that I felt that it handled it really well. Yeah, so I really appreciated kind of how those themes were tackled in 3, and I'm excited to kind of see. I'm assuming probably some similar ideas and themes are discussed in Nier, maybe just to a much more heavier extent. But I'm excited to check that out, and I'll probably be talking about that as I play through it. So that's going to be later down the line. Other than that, what else has been going on? When it comes to the off season for basketball, there are things that are happening for sure. It's a pretty oftentimes, I mean, earlier on in the off season, there was the whole, I guess, trade free agency deadline, right? So there's a lot of shit that was going on there. And once in a while you get some headlines going on, like right now there's that James Harden Daryl Morey situation where it's like, okay, this is a pretty significant falling out from these guys. I mean, because I remember there being that one that one video when Harden got traded to Philly back in like 2022, right? Where he arrived on the plane and like there was this like embrace that they had on the tarmac, and I thought that shit was so funny. And now it's the ultimate business breakup. It's pretty funny. I feel kind of bad for Embiid. I feel, I touched upon this during the playoffs, but I felt this year was really their chance to make a push for the finals, considering, um, they had an opportunity. The Bucks were knocked out in the first round. The Celtics were incredibly inconsistent. They had an opportunity to take them out in the second round, but they didn't. They kind of choked on that. Um, and now there's sort of now there's just kind of this gray area for them where you don't really know what the future is. I mean, I think they've been in this sort of, I guess, championship window for the past like 3 years, since 2018, 2019, right? Back in 2019, it was the the Kawhi buzzer that put him away when they went up against the Raptors, right? So they've just, some of them obviously is just kind of unlucky for sure, but I think this year especially it was just sort of a squandered opportunity to take advantage of that situation. So I don't know. I don't know what the future of the Sixers is right now. It's not looking super great, mostly pertaining to the James Harden situation, and him, requesting out. But yeah, I don't know if it's looking all that good for Embiid either. It's probably not going to be a super long-lasting relationship for him. I don't know. It's just it sucks. It's too bad because I do like him as a player. Even if he does maybe foul bait a little bit much, but other than that, he's an incredible player. Just nobody really plays like him specifically right now. Both on both ends of the floor. So, yeah, that's sort of the. Other than that, NBA offseason right now is pretty quiet for the most part. I think we're just waiting for basketball. I mean, right now there's actually the FIBA World Cup going on, but I just haven't really tuned into it. So maybe I should do that, because if there's basketball on, like, what am I doing? I just haven't really been locked in, I guess. Yeah, I want to check it out, because it seems like the U.S. team, it seems like a fun group this year. I have no idea. I have no idea what round or what part of the tournament it's currently in. I've just seen some clips and I've seen some results of, the U.S., winning their games and whatnot, but I have no idea what the current, I don't know what the current standing is for the World Cup there. So, maybe I'll check it out. I think maybe I'll do that after the women's, soccer World Cup. So, yeah. I guess that's gonna be it for now. Next time you'll hear me, it'll be the same recording, because I just added the two clips together, so it's not. Next time I'll be talking is this weekend. So yeah, stay tuned for that. All right, it is now August 20th, 2023. Recording this on a Sunday, a lovely Sunday afternoon. Just chilling and vibing. The weather is nice. It's a little warm. It's a little warm for my taste, but probably better than some other places right now, including, places like Hawaii and Canada. So I'll take, just a small heat complaint is nothing compared to what other people are experiencing right now. So yeah, that's what's going on in terms of, climate and whatnot. But yeah, I've been doing all right. This weekend has been decent. The past week, I would say, has been okay. I felt it was one of those weeks. It was just one of those weeks where I just kind of felt a bit off. I feel I can kind of pinpoint why. I mean, it's, kind of sleep and other things. I felt like I really don't know why, but for some reason this past week I was just really fixated on my phone. Like, I was just like constantly on my phone. If I wasn't working, I was like on my phone, just like looking shit up on Reddit or like, I don't know, YouTube, or I don't know, maybe Discord or whatever. But yeah, I was just like fixated, and it was just, I don't know why. I don't really know why. It was just like if I had TikTok, it would have been so much worse. But yeah, for some reason I just couldn't I couldn't get away from my phone. I mean, I'm technically using my phone right now to record. You know what I mean? So, um, it's like it's hard to get away from that. But I really want to try to limit my use of it this week. I feel like it was just super detrimental. Super detrimental, just in terms of, I don't know, sleep and shit. Like, I just felt like I was super distracted. Luckily, this is sort of a silver lining kind of situation, but work is gonna start to pick up for me, which is both a kind of blessing and a curse. But the one good thing is that I will, it will sort of incentivize me to stay away from my phone. I think what I should do is I should like store my phone like somewhere else. You know what I mean? Where it's like a difficult spot to find, so I'm not just like go back to it, start scrolling on some shit, you know what I mean? I also think, and I'm thinking back, and this is me thinking back to when I was younger. I used to use an alarm clock, like an actual alarm clock, to wake up for school and shit. I kind of want to do the same thing. Like, I kind of want to get like an alarm clock, because I feel my phone is like way too convenient, you know what I mean? Like, it's just way too convenient it's like right beside my bed, my bedside. I have it, I use my phone for essentially for like everything, right? Alarm, calendar, alerts, events, whatnot. So I just feel like it might be a good idea to just pick up an alarm clock, you know what I mean, and try that out again. Because it kind of worked when I was a kid, you know what I mean? I wasn't distracted. Like, well, I mean, I didn't have a phone, like, so that was like a huge thing. Phone. I didn't start using like a iPod or touchscreen device, until I was like 14 or something, 13 maybe. So I feel that it might actually be beneficial to pick up something like an alarm clock, like a physical alarm clock, and use that instead of my phone, just so I can kind of, really wean off of this. My phone, my apps and shit, there are a lot of uses for sure, but I've just found that, I guess it really mostly relates to just kind of the past week and how I've dealt with it. But yeah, I've just been distracted. I just haven't felt super focused, and I think that my phone unfortunately kind of contributed to that. So I think that just trying to maybe, take some steps to use it less in general will be good. Just general basic ass phone practice, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like 101, like, keep the shit away from you, just because I think that's just like the main thing, really. It's simple. It's not that difficult. So I might try to do at least one of those things. Maybe just like put my phone somewhere else. But yeah, I think the alarm thing would be like a good idea to try out. Yeah, other than that, this past week's been, again, quiet, uneventful. It's been like, just because of how I've sort of slept and how I dealt with it. I've just sort of felt blah. I feel pretty good right now. I feel decent right now. A little tired, but like a good kind of tired, because I went to the gym earlier. And so now I feel just kind of, I felt productive in that sense. I felt like I got stuff done. And now I'm just gonna relax for the rest of the day. I finally went and saw Oppenheimer yesterday. I finally was like, all right, fuck it, I'm just gonna go and watch it, because like part of me was like, maybe not super, I don't know, like I wouldn't have been like, I wouldn't have beat myself up if I didn't watch it in theaters, or if I didn't like watch it at all. But I'm glad I did. I'm glad I went and saw it. What did I think of the movie? I think it was alright. I enjoyed it. I think as an overall movie-going experience, just in terms of my general enjoyment of the film, it was probably like a kind of like a 7.5 out of 10. So it was good. I I kind of viewed it. So it was. I'll give like kind of a bit of a background in a sense. So I'm half Japanese. My mom is Japanese, and I don't know. I just want to kind of provide my perspective. I was talking to my mom before I went to watch the movie, and she was talking about, we were just kind of chatting. She was talking about how it's possible that the movie is not going to get shown in Japan for kind of obvious reasons, relating to the bombings and everything like that. And I feel that, I don't know, I think with that context, I was sort of kind of viewing this film on a very kind of, historical level of like who was ultimately affected by all of this, you know what I mean? Like, who are the people that were affected by these kind of institutions? Not just Oppenheimer himself, right? Like, he was very much kind of a reflection of the state. He's kind of the, I don't want to say figurehead in a sense, but kind of close to that, you know what I mean? In terms of him being, the quote unquote father of the bomb. But yeah, like, it's just sort of these institutions, these countries, like who are the people that were ultimately affected by these things, right? Civilians, right? Civilians of both, of course, like the, Japanese citizens that were, bombed. But also people that, whose land was taken away, whose, property was taken away in order to, test the nuclear sites, people that were affected by the nuclear radiation. And the movie did touch upon these things, like, there was that one scene with Truman and Oppenheimer kind of towards the end of the film, where they had their meeting, and like Oppenheimer suggested to Truman to kind of give back the land to the Indians, right? It's kind of his, in line was kind of his, leftist sort of progressive political views and stuff. So, there were like some things that were sort of touched upon there. But it's sort of like, I don't know, it was, but just kind of to my point of the movie experience, like, in the back of my head, I was just always kind of thinking about, like, they were, showing all of these, like, historical figures, and maybe this is just kind of how I've sort of become, how I've started to kind of look at things, where you sort of, you look at these famous historical figures, and how, kind of what they stand for. You can, of course, praise their accomplishments and their achievements and be like, wow, that's very impressive what they were able to do in their lives. But then you kind of have to think about, their positions of, privilege and whatnot, the people that are kind of revered as these, like, historical figures. And even if they're not revered, even if they are just, famous because of just, maybe they live in infamy, like, it's like predominantly white dudes, you know what I mean? Like, I know this is not like a super novel concept by any means. This is something that's been talked about quite a lot recently, but it is something that I have started to kind of reflect on when I look at historical events and just history in general. And so when I was watching the movie, I was just kind of thinking about, like, all of the actors, and like not the actual actors, but like the all of these figures and people that were part of this kind of part of the movie, and just sort of like what they were kind of a part of, and then just kind of thinking, like, why, I mean, this is all fascinating, and this is all really well done. And I know, and the movie does, criticize these things for sure. Like, you have one of the scenes that I felt like the most affected by was like after, I think it was after the Japanese surrendered. There was that scene in Los Alamos in the auditorium, where Oppenheimer gave a speech, and he had all these people that were cheering and chanting, and he started to kind of see these visions of, or not visions, but his kind of sense of, his perception of reality became kind of distorted, because he was, instead of cheering, he was hearing screaming, and instead of kind of crying with joy, they were crying out of just fear and just complete loss of life. Like that was kind of that affected me. I felt like that was a very moving scene. I thought that was really well done. But like they give numbers, they talk about how over 100,000 people were killed with the two bombs. They brought it up at like the court hearings with when they were like questioning Oppenheimer for his like security clearance. And I thought those kind of conversations, and sort of the sort of character study of Oppenheimer was really interesting. But I don't know, I just felt it was just kind of like, what is this all in service of? I know this is very much a character study of Oppenheimer, for sure. I think it does a pretty good job of dissecting his character, his, obviously his kind of brilliance as a theorist and all that, but also his flaws, for sure. But I'm just also thinking about, like, I don't know, just the broader scale of things. Like, I kind of see all of these characters, their interactions, all of these things kind of building up to, the bomb, the building of the bomb and all that. And I'm like, you already, we know the outcome, right? It's like, we kind of know what the outcome is. It's like, I just, I don't know. I was sort of, like, I wish that I was more fascinated with, like, how, this is, like, how the chemical structures of the bomb was, like, created. These are, like, things that was, kind of discussed in the film. I really wanted to kind of be, I wanted to sort of be, similar to how they, Nolan presented kind of these scientific scenes in Interstellar. Like, I was really intrigued by all of that, even if it's, poking a pen through a piece of paper kind of thing. Like, I don't know, I thought that was fun. I mean, now at this point it's kind of a parody, right? But I really wanted to kind of be, like, enamored and just in the scenes where they were talking about the science and being like, wow, look at all these things. I just couldn't. It was just really hard for me to disassociate that with just, like, the complete human just this catastrophe that occurred afterwards, and just kind of the human toll of these creations. And again, the film does address these things. It does. Like, it talks, Oppenheimer is very much, after the bomb dropped, and, kind of throughout the movie, there was, like, conflict with him, and, him having conversations with people about, just the effect of the bomb and shit, and, this will change the world and all that. Like, there were conversations like that leading up to the point after, when the bomb dropped, and then after the bomb dropped. There was always that kind of theme running through, for sure. But, I mean, like at the very beginning, it was like something about Hephaestus or like God gave humans fire, and you know, just like kind of the toll that, you know, just the awful impact that has had on humanity as a whole. I don't know. I just felt that it was not. I was not as impacted by those discussions as I maybe would have liked. And it's not like it's. This movie is. It's focusing for, you know, on the cinematics and everything like that. I think that's really a strong draw for the film. I just wish that maybe instead of little bits and pieces that were given to the bombings, I think maybe there should have been just a slight more of a focus, or maybe I don't know, maybe like a scene or two. There was one scene where they were in the projector room and they were looking at the effects of the bombing. I feel like that could have been, you know, I totally understand not wanting to show the actual images. That might have been an issue. But it was just sort of, it was like 20 seconds of you hear like a narration going on, and you see the people, you know, you see the members of the audience, including Oppenheimer, looking and watching the screen. He like looks away, right? He looks away from the projector, and so you understand, you know, he doesn't want to look at the effects of his own, you know, his own creation. Like I understand that. But I think we as an audience kind of need to look at that a little bit. This is a blockbuster movie for sure. This is, you know, meant to be shown to wider audiences. I think it's worthwhile to maybe see those images, even if it's just a single image. If it's just show. You don't need to show images of the, you know, maybe you don't need to show close-ups of the people who have been killed, but just show maybe like a, I don't know, like a satellite view. I don't, you know, like a far off shot of the, you know, explosive damage that it did to the city, that sort of thing. I don't know, because I just don't feel like it was very effective. And I know that the ultimate takeaway with this film is not, you know, of course there's there's like the thing of like, you have to think about just the awful nature of war, and just the, you know, what people have to do in order to kind of you know, how there's this in order to win wars, like the people that there comes scientific ingenuity is sort of the it's sort of the proprietor for who wins the war, essentially, right? And that was very much the case in World War II, and I guess you could say that it continues to be. But yeah, I know this is sort of a bit of a messy kind of. I have more to say about the film, but I've been talking a little bit about just kind of, you know, the background of. I'm trying my best to really explain why I felt that the film wasn't as effective as I felt it could have been. Like, there were certain scenes that were like, okay, this is really good. Like, I really like how this is presented. But just in terms of a kind of a message, I feel it maybe was not as effective as it could have been. And it's really hard to pinpoint exact reasons, but I've tried my best, so hopefully you kind of understand where I'm coming from when I say these things. That is, I enjoyed the film, for sure. I really enjoyed it. I just think there are certain things that, on a much more serious, the whole movie is serious. There's a lot to really think about. But, and I know that it is primarily focusing on Oppenheimer's character, of course, for sure, because that's the name of the film, and whatnot. It's a biopic. I just, I think it could have done more to include the actual kind of conversation in regards to war, because I felt that was sort of missing in the film, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of how I felt while watching. Here's the thing. The political intrigue stuff is kind of interesting, after his career, where he, his status as a potential communist, comes into effect, and he's tried for his security clearance and all that shit. It's interesting, but I just don't really care that much. I just did not care about that plot thread at all, and that was 1/3 of the movie. You know what I mean? I think it would have been more interesting to explore, him really pushing for the kind of the, his anti, hydrogen bomb production efforts, really focusing on that, because then it would have contrasted well with, just kind of the cause and effect of everything. Him wanting to become a scientist, what drove him to be, go into quantum physics and everything like that. What drove him to become a part of the Manhattan Project, and then, the effect of the bombs and the war, and then, what effect did that have on his character, and why did he decide to really start pushing for, dismantling kind of the nuclear program and that sort of thing. I think it would have been more interesting to really focus on that and him making efforts to do those kinds of things, because then it would have been, I don't know, I think it would have been a little more interesting. Again, this is very much a character study. They very, in that kind of courtroom. I know it's not a courtroom, but in that room where they're sort of interrogating him, they really dissect, his relationships and everything like that. Which is kind of interesting, but I just didn't care that much about that, to be completely honest. He is a really interesting person, for sure. He's a very fascinating historical figure. But yeah, I think that because I sort of had this initial, thing, how I was kind of looking through the lens of, how of just kind of the bombing and shit, I felt that I was maybe a bit disillusioned while watching the film. Part of me was, you know what I mean? So I don't know, maybe if I had a different mindset and I was just kind of going into it, just sort of looking forward to seeing and getting to understand a historical figure a little better, then maybe I would have, I don't know, maybe I might have different thoughts on it, but that's just kind of where my head's at after watching the film. I know I'm giving a lot of criticisms. I just think in terms of so I'll try, because I have more criticisms too. This makes it seem like I really didn't like the movie. I enjoyed it. I thought the acting and everything, I thought the set pieces, all of that, the cinematography, the music, everything, all the presentation of everything was really well done, and I enjoyed that aspect. But I just have a lot of criticisms of the film, and I think that's more interesting to talk about than what I thought was good, because what I thought was good was kind of surface level, and what I kind of have in terms of critiques, I think, are a little more, I don't know, I think I feel I have a bit more insight on, or I feel that I can provide a bit more commentary on. I think, now I haven't seen Tenet, which is, Chris Nolan's last movie. I heard that was a pretty mixed bag, or in terms of, reception, it was pretty mixed. And so I think what was the last movie he put out? I think it was Dunkirk, right? I saw Dunkirk. I enjoyed Dunkirk. I thought that was pretty well done. It was with Harry Styles. He wasn't the main guy, but he was one of the main characters. I think, and I haven't watched back any of his films recently. Inception, at a point I considered one of my favorite movies. I haven't watched it in recent memory. I'm wondering how I'll feel about it if I watch it today. Interstellar, I really loved. I really enjoyed. I thought it was like a awesome theater going experience. I think I'll still really enjoy it if I watch it again. And then, like the Dark Knight trilogy, and there's still other movies that I haven't really, Memento, that was great. I haven't seen The Prestige. There's other stuff that I haven't seen from him, obviously like the Dark Knight trilogy, but based on the movies that I have seen from him, I feel that I can kind of, one of the flaws, or one of the things that I've kind of seen in his films, is that the interpersonal relationships are not super well done. I never feel connected to any of the characters. Well, I don't really feel super connected to a lot of the side characters. Like, I love Inception, but I'm mostly there for the conceptual part of the movie, the fact that you're going into dreams and you're kind of recalibrating a person or changing a person. It's kind of like Persona 5. The conceptual aspect of Inception was what drew me in and what made me love it so much, but not so much the characters. Like the characters and kind of those relationships are not very interesting. I just don't think they're super fleshed out. The only one that's it's like really memorable is between Leo DiCaprio's, I think his name was Cobb, right? His character Cobb and his dead wife's relationship. I think that was probably the most interesting. I mean, that was kind of like the emotional heart of the story, right? But everything else was kind of just like these side characters that had certain skill sets, that were good at some things, but in terms of like the relationships that they had with one another, it was not very well fleshed out. And that, I feel like I kind of noticed that as being kind of a common weakness that I've seen in Christopher Nolan's films, and that was very apparent to me in this one especially. I just never felt connected. I never felt any of the relationships he had with other people, and I feel that kind of it's really hard to convey that. It's really hard to show every kind of because there's so many characters, there's so many figures in the film, that it's really hard to show that on in the film. But I think the biggest one that comes to mind is Oppenheimer's relationship with Jane, I didn't learn a single thing about Jean. We know nothing about her. We just know that they met at like a cocktail party. She's like a grad student, I think, right? And he was a professor, and that they met there and they hooked up. And then I guess they got married. They never really, I feel like they never really, maybe they did say, but I just could have missed that. Could have just been like a 1 second scene. There's a lot of scenes in this movie, man. I mean, it's 3 hours long, but when I say scenes, I mean there's just a ton of set pieces. There's so many. I mean, because they're just like, jumping back and forth between time periods and shit, which is, I understand. But we don't know shit about Jean. The only thing we know is that she's mentally ill, and then she unfortunately commits suicide, but that's like the only thing that we know about her. That she doesn't there's this like thing where she gets flowers and throws them in the garbage, but that's it. We don't know anything. We don't know what she does. We don't know like what her kind of position is. Like we don't know anything. Like it's just sort of, I don't know. It was kind of, I was like I didn't feel. I wish I did. I wish I felt something when, the news came out that she committed suicide, but you don't really feel anything because you don't know anything about her. Like, you just know that this is a person that Oppenheimer had a relationship with in the past, and this is also a person that he cheated on with his wife. Like, these are just things that that's shown on the screen, and I guess that kind of contributes to, I don't know, it just sort of like it bothered me a little bit. Like, I just felt that it didn't there was no, I don't know, we just aren't given. It's really hard, and I understand it's really hard to flesh out all of these characters, especially in like a biopic where you're primarily focusing on a single person. Like, they are the focus of the film. Like, I totally understand that, but it's difficult for me to connect with this person if their relationships are not super well established or strong. You know what I mean? And I think that's, and it's not just, I think it's just a common kind of through line with Christopher Nolan's other films. You know what I mean? Presentation and kind of the theatrics of it are what sort of bring it, kind of bring life to his films. I do think that this is probably his like best written film in terms of like the dialogue. I thought the dialogue was like really tight, especially the conversations and the interrogation scenes. I thought those were really well acted and well, I guess well written, because they felt pretty convincing. But outside of that, I don't know. I think that maybe with certain films, I'm just looking for more kind of deeper sort of, or just films in general as of late. I've been looking for a bit more just kind of like a emotional pull, as opposed to kind of it being like, this is what we're showing you. This is like the historical event that occurred, right? I obviously, it's, with like a biopic, it's not something that maybe I should try to, get out of it, but that's just kind of how, another thing that I kind of felt with this film is that the interpersonal relationships didn't feel, drew me in a whole lot. So that's kind of where I stand. Also, that one sex scene, it was pretty bad. Like, it was just, and then they reintegrated it back into kind of the courtroom scene, or in the interrogation scene, and I just felt that it just didn't add add anything. I just didn't feel like it added much. Like, you get kind of the anguish. You understand that Oppenheimer has affected the women around in his life. I kind of get that. I understand that. But it just felt, it was just kind of off-putting, for one. There's a sense of, it was just kind of funny because it was like the only scene where there was this, I don't know what kind of technique you would call it, where he's sort of being, where he's essentially naked in the interrogation room. Like, the relationships, everything is kind of laid bare for everyone to see. And, he's naked, and then it's sort of like he's having sex with Jean in the interrogation room. Can we call it an interrogation room? I don't fucking know. The room where they're holding the hearings. And it cuts to, Jean riding him, and it just sort of was like, okay. I don't know. It was just, it didn't feel, it was just, I thought it was more humorous than anything, and I just didn't, it didn't, like, land with me. I think another thing, and I'm sorry that I keep harping on it with, like, Jean's character especially, because I felt like that was probably one of the more glaring issues with the film, actual glaring issues, like, outside of my own kind of, like, opinion of, like, how I viewed this through a historical lens of the people that were affected by the bombing and all that shit. Outside of that perspective, on just kind of the, a critique of the film in general is how they presented her character overall. Like, half of the scenes with her are like she's naked. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't that kind of tell you a little bit like of like how they're portraying the character? Like, it's like probably more than half of the scenes that she's on screen, she's naked, and she's she's like having sex with Oppenheimer, or she's she's just naked with him while having a conversation, like that sort of thing. I feel that kind of tells you a little something. I feel that's, I don't know, and it's not exactly a great portrayal of someone. It's just like, again, you don't know anything about her. You really don't. You don't know shit about her. They don't tell you anything about her. Like, they don't show her doing other things other than being in a relationship with him. So I don't know. It's that was kind of disappointing, in my opinion. I don't know how much more I have to say. Again, I know a majority of what I've been talking about have been critiques. I just don't have a ton of like I enjoyed the movie. I had overall a pretty positive experience while watching this movie. I just have more critiques than I do in terms of like what I can say that are positive, things that I can say that are positive, because the things that I can say are positive are just related to the filmmaking itself, which I don't like. Cinematography was good. It was like well shot. It was very pretty. I don't know what else I can really add in terms of that. Dialogue was good, for the most part. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. I enjoyed it again, but I have a lot of criticisms with the film. Do I recommend it? I don't know if I recommend it. If you like Christopher Nolan, then yeah, check it out. If you are sensitive to war stuff, maybe pass. But again, they didn't really show much in terms of like people that were, actually affected. So, I don't know. It's not like gory or violent. There's like sex, there's like the sex scenes. That's kind of it. But nothing super, I don't know, oh shit, this is like, oh god, this is something that's gonna be, it's gonna bother me. Maybe it'll bother you, but if it does kind of, if you are uncomfortable with these kinds of things, and you don't necessarily want to view them, even though I think it is worth discussing these issues, then yeah, I don't know. It's you'll check it out if you want. If you don't want to, then there's nothing wrong with not checking it out either. I think you can pass on this if you want, but it's a solid film. It's a good film. I will say though, I think one good thing that I think that has kind of come out of this film's release are the discussions regarding war and the bomb and the people that were actually affected, like physically affected by the effects of like nuclear bomb testing, radiation, people that were literally killed. Like I think these are things that these are conversations that I've kind of heard, kind of in online circles a little bit, and I think that's good. I think it's good to bring some awareness and have some historical literacy on these things, including myself. I have the Sparks Notes versions of the things that have happened. Like I know, in general what has happened in World War II, but I kind of am still ignorant on the lasting effects of the bombing, what kind of really occurred in Hiroshima and Nagasaki and all of that. I don't really know a whole lot about the people that were kind of I guess you could say displaced with the military's testing, that sort of thing, right? So I don't know, there's a lot to really discuss outside of just Oppenheimer and his character. So I think that the discussions that have kind of sprung up from this film is a good thing. So I feel that that's like kind of one positive takeaway that you can kind of have with the film's popularity in that sense. Anyways, long talk of the film. I had a lot to say. What else? I think that's it for me. I'm gonna leave it at that. Maybe I'll shoot for a recording during the middle of the week. We'll see. Again, I think I'm expecting work to pick up, so it's possible that I might just do a short weekend recording next week. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that. Anyways, thanks for listening as always. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.